Hello, General Science, and welcome back. Today we're going to learn about the differences between substances and mixtures. So this topic is all about classifying different types of matter. We're going to be doing this for the next week and a half or so. So this is just a beginning. First, we need to talk about what is matter. Well, matter is anything that has mass and it takes up space, meaning it has volume. Basically, anything that's made up of atoms is considered matter. Even just one atom would be considered matter. There are 4 phases of matter, which we're not going to get into very deep, but you've probably heard of them before, at least the first 3: solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. It's possible you haven't heard of plasma before. I recommend looking it up. It's quite interesting. Examples of matter, well, there are billions of examples of matter, but let's give just a few examples. Well, you matter, but you are matter. A chair, anything you can touch, water, food, things in your home. There's so many different types of matter. So instead, I thought I'd give you some things that aren't matter. So things like thoughts or ideas. Light, you can't actually touch light. It doesn't actually have any mass. Heat, well, you might be able to feel heat. You can't actually touch it. Sound, you can hear it, but it's not actually made up of atoms, so it's not matter. So like all things, we need a way to classify matter. It's very similar to if you think back to our biology unit when we had to classify different types of organisms. This is similar, but instead of classifying organisms, we're going to classify matter. Today we're talking about the basic setup. In the next couple videos, we're going to get more into specifics, more into examples, and by the end, you should be able to take an unknown thing, a random thing, and you should be able to identify the matter. There are 2 main categories of matter, and each category has 2 subcategories. So let's get into it. 2 main categories are substances and mixtures, hence the name of this video. Substances cannot be separated into different kinds of matter. So you've got salt, water, iron, sulfur. If I gave you a jar of table salt, you could not separate that into something else. All you'd have is salt. Mixtures are a combination of 2 or more substances. So dirt, pizza, salsa, sand. If I gave you pizza, well, you could separate it. You could take off the cheese and take off the tomato sauce. You'd be left with the crust. Maybe you like pepperoni. You can separate all these things. Even things that you might not think, like dirt. Well, if you really get into it, you can separate it into different types of dirt, into different nutrients, into different rocks. Mixtures, they're a combination of 2 or more of these substances. Let's talk a little more about substances. So substances can be broken down into elements and compounds. So elements, a pure substance that's only one type of atom. The easiest way to remember this is anything that's found on the periodic table is an element, hence the name periodic table of elements. Things like iron, sulfur, hydrogen, gold, silver, those are all elements. It's only one type of atom. A compound, on the other hand, contains atoms of different elements. Elements are chemically bonded together, and typically you can tell if it's a compound because it has I'm blanking on the name, ladies and gentlemen. It has a chemical formula. There we go. Like water, water is H2O. It's hydrogen and oxygen, 2 different elements chemically bonded together. Salt is NaOH, sodium, oxygen, and hydrogen, all chemically bonded together. And there are different types of sugar. C6H12O6. The reason I'm bringing that one up is you'll see that a lot next year when you take biology. So those are elements and compounds. They're both considered substances. And mixtures, there are 2 types of mixtures. homogeneous or homogeneous mixtures, and heterogeneous mixtures. Now, if you recall when we did root words, homo means the same and hetero means different. So homogeneous or homogeneous mixtures are also called solutions. So if you hear someone talking about a solution, they're really talking about a homogeneous mixture, at least a solution in science class. This type of mixture, it has the same appearance and composition throughout. The parts, they're not easily separated. You probably have to go through some chemical process to separate it. So salt water. If I gave you a jar of salt water, you couldn't go in there with your hands and separate the salt and the water. Same with sugar water. You could use some chemical processes that we'll talk about later in class, but you couldn't do it with your hands. The other type, heterogeneous mixture, this type of mixture has visibly different substances. You can look at this and you can easily say, oh, there's that, there's that, I can separate them. For example, a pizza. Like I said earlier, you could take that and easily separate the parts. You can take off your pepperoni, put it in a pile, your cheese, put it in a pile, you could scrape off your sauce. I like to think of these kind of like the difference between salsa and pico de gallo. If you have a jar of salsa next to you and a jar of pico de gallo next to you, they're visibly different. The pico de gallo, you can pretty easily pick apart the tomato, the onion, whatever else you have in it. So pico de gallo is like a heterogeneous mixture. However, your salsa, it's pretty mixed together. While you might be able to take some large chunks of it, a lot of it can't be separated anymore. So salsa is more like a homogeneous mixture. So those are our two mixtures. I've included this table to help you just visualize it a little more. So all of this is matter. Matter can be broken up into a substance or a mixture. A substance can be either a compound or an element, and a mixture can be either a homogeneous or a heterogeneous mixture. And just some examples down here at the bottom. So your assignment for this video is the Google Forms Substances and Mixtures. It goes right along with these notes. It's due Friday, May 8th at 11:59 p.m. And as always, I'm always open for emails, of questions, concerns, comments, anything you'd like. I stop emailing back at around 9:30 p.m., but even if you email me after that, I will respond. Have a good week, everybody. I hope you're all doing well, and I will talk to you later.